Video, I am going to share with you the worst kept secret to creating wealth. And well, it's also the worst kept secret because it's the most well-known secret. You probably already know this. It's something that you've already been told along way, throughout your life. Your grandma's probably told you should do it. You know you should do this. It just hasn't manifested itself in your life as a habit. And you remember when your parents told you that you should probably be saving more and spending less? Well, it turns out that they were probably right, because research that was done in the US on over nearly 3,900 homes where the major income earner was nearing retirement has confirmed this to be true. What it did was it showed that the largest determinant of wealth, of household wealth, for many people was not things like inheritance or chance or investment decisions. It was actually how much people chose to save. Things like investment choices only made about 8% difference to people's wealth that they accumulated over time. So, you think about that, only 8% difference. You can run around trying to, chase returns, try to look clever, talking about what's the best thing to do and what best thing to invest in, when at the same time, your mate who's just down the road, plodding away, consistently saving, has a 92% chance of actually accumulating more wealth than you. So that's a pretty alarming fact. And I was quite surprised when I first heard that. And this outcome was based on people's actual investment choices. It's not if they actually, it wasn't a hypothetical, if they had put money in X investments or an index fund, for example. It was on the actual investment choices that people decided to make throughout their lifetime. In doing that, they were only 8% more likely to accumulate more wealth than somebody who just chose to plod along and save. Now, this was done back in 2001. It's when the markets were used to double-digit growths, and the average return on the S&P 500, that's the US stock market, the average return over 70 years was 12.5%. And in the research, if people had saved 10% of their salary on average and put that in cash, with a return of 6%. So remember when term deposits used to be at 6%, which is not that long ago. If these people had done that, an average 10% over time, then they would have accumulated $100,000. Now, if they had invested that money into an index fund, which just tracks the market, they would have got between $250,000 to $300,000. So there's a couple of things in here. One is to save, is step one, but obviously two is to do something with that money. 100 grand's great, but 250 and 300 is even better. And but you got to do it right, getting the right advice. Those people who chose to go and try and do it on their own and try to make sure that they could, decide on what was best, 92% of them were worse off. So now, I'm not going to go in to talk about financial investment and advice, because this is not financial advice, what I'm talking about. And anything I say doesn't take into account your personal circumstances. So yes, big disclaimer, guys. I mean, you need to speak to a financial advisor to get investment advice. And I'm just illustrating a point here about decision-making and habits and that have been proven. And, as a financial advisor, when I was an advisor, I used to see the impact of saving every day. Some of our financially wealthier clients earned lower than executive income. They were just used to saving, and they were very good at it. Now, I know that kind of lifestyle might suit you, but that's just a point of fact, the impact of saving. And because on the flip side, some of our high salary executives were the opposite. Often their biggest goal was just to get on top of cash flow and build up a cash reserve. Some of our clients who earned seven-figure incomes, their number one goal was just to start saving. They had super, they may have had an investment property, whatever, but their number one goal was to get on top of the cash flow and start saving. So, you don't have to be tight with your money. I mean, just be aware of it. Just be aware of what you're spending and what you're doing with it, and start formulating those habits. Now, one client that I had about 10 grand outstanding in credit card debts, but he had $1 million in an investment account, and he just refused to draw down from his investment account to pay that 10 grand on the debt that had a 19% interest rate. So he refused to do it, even though it made perfect financial sense to do it. I brought it up every time we caught up with him. He preferred to discipline himself to pay down that debt with his daily cash flow. And it was this discipline that helped him accumulate that $1 million. Now, if you're like me and you know you could save more, because let's face it, we live in the modern world. We've got family, we've got young kids. So life is not all about saving, and you also need to have a life at the same time. So one of the things you can do is, obviously there's two ways to increase the cash flow. One is to save more, and the other one is to increase your income. And that's one of the reasons why my wife and I've got a business, because we're probably better at on the income side, whilst at the same time I'm very good at coaching people on both sides on saving as well. So look, I'm going to go through this in a bit more detail in my upcoming book, which is the Cash Flow Breakthrough. It's coming out very shortly, and we'll go through that in a bit more detail, and I can't wait to see it from you. But today was just a bit of an insight, and just a bit of I wanted to expose to you something that you already know. So sometimes when we search for something, sometimes and we're searching for an answer, sometimes we already know it, and we just really refuse to acknowledge it. So I'm just giving you the permission to acknowledge that you already know what you need to do, and go out there and do it. But I look forward to sharing the ebook with you very shortly. Thanks. I've enjoyed it, and I'll see you at the next live.